the people who go, I am a higher level judge, and I therefore should be looked at and praised as somebody who knows the rules in a way that you common and mere mortals do not understand. I would like you to bow in my presence, and I would like other people not to ever be considered judges, because they are not. They are simply tournament overseers. I don't want them to be called a judge. It is important to me that my title as judge is holy and sanctified.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Dice Commando. I'm Andrew, and I'm joined tonight by the entire Outcast Haven team as I have an interesting question for them. Now, games like Flesh and Blood are occasionally forced to implement bans, errata, or other similar changes in order to improve or protect game health. When they do, there's typically an effective date that follows the announcement by a small period of time. In most cases, the purpose of this gap is to minimize player disruption, to allow an in-progress competitive season to wrap up on the same meta, or to ensure that players have been practicing for or traveling to a large event are not unfairly impacted. At highly competitive level events, it's widely accepted that it's perfectly fine to play with soon-to-be banned cards, as the focus is on the play and the competition. However, at local level and casual style events, it's generally not okay when players show up with these cards in their deck. So the question I have for these guys, given their background in a highly competitive environment, not just for this game but for others, is where does that break occur and why? When and where is it acceptable to play with a terminal card? A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. So the inspiration for tonight's cast happened a few weeks back at our local armory. The Stubbies ban had just been announced and was going into effect on that Monday, but as a Saturday tournament was still technically legal. We had 4 players show up with 5 that night, but only one of them showed up with Stubbies in their decks, and I'll be honest, I was a little pissed at the guy. First off, it's a complete failure to read the room. I know that if I personally showed up and I was the only 5 player of the 4 running Stubbies, I'd probably just put it into my box and not run it. But again, everyone's different, has different value systems. So that's where I was at on that one. So the question I have for these guys tonight is, obviously, as seen recently in the Starvo era, it's acceptable and championed by the community to play these cards at a certain level. Without a doubt, there are certain expectations at locals. So I turn it over to you guys. When and where is the break point on this, and why?
I know that I'm going to probably fire Blake and Jason up with my response. So I will go wherever in the order you want me to go here.
That's perfect. So then go first, and let's
obviously go first.
Yeah.
I think the break point is, if it's legal, you can play it and you should deal with it. Like, honestly, like, with the knowledge that you are that guy. If that's who you are, if you are the type of person where it's like, I need to win this local, then sure, go ahead and run your Stubbies, be that guy, but do it with the knowledge that you are that guy.
That's
a
big caveat,
it's legal.
though. That's a big caveat,
Such
though.
a Minnesotan response. That is such a Minnesotan,
Why?
like, oh, it's so like, what do you think of the neighbors? Well, to their face, they say hi, and then behind the back, those assholes leaving their trash out for 3 days, and this and that. That is such a Minnesota.
What I'm doing here is I'm walking up to the neighbor and being like, hey, it's an asshole move to leave your trash out for 3 days. Wish you weren't like that, but I'm also not going to spend my time really upset about you leaving your trash out. You know, like why would I waste my breath and conscious time
at it
worried about you?
Window. You gotta look at their trash out your front window. That's why.
It makes them look like shit.
And you have
literally my whole point.
And you have to look at it.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
you could literally guess how much impact that guy running Stubbies has on your life if you play against him.
So I go to an event for fun. So if you have a degenerate deck that obviously needed banning so much so that they banned it very early to get rid of it, then by you bringing it, you are affecting my life to being horrible for that evening when I have to play you. And when that happens, I am just going to block everything to make your life just as miserable. I don't even care if I win. I'm just going to block out. Like block.
That's fair.
So we can both like Blake always says, he plays Kano, so everybody has to be miserable during Blitz season. I will block out if you're going to run the banned card.
This is where I land, and I think Starvo actually broke this in me, is that I think I judge people more who whine about something like that happening than I do judge the people causing it. The
whining,
people that bitch. No. And like I'm not including this conversation because I think it's a valid conversation to have. Like I think that this scenario probably came up a lot, right? So I think this is a valid thing to be talking about. I'm not calling Andrew a whiner because he doesn't like that, because that's Andrew, a valid thing. That is a valid view to have on this. But I had so many people. I was more sick of people bitching about Starvo than I was sick of Starvo. I was so done with it. I'm like, my game nights are more ruined by having to constantly hear fucking Starvo than they were by having to play against a Starvo.
So
that's it.
I have what I think is a very logical argument that kind of fits both sides, shockingly, and that's
politician, rabble, Jason.
I think that somebody bringing it does negatively impact my experience, but I don't care about it personally, because as a general rule, I'm a high enough level player, and I believe in the decks that I bring. I think I can beat people who play degenerate decks. I have no issue with that. What my biggest concern is that I would like to be playing Flesh and Blood here locally at as many stores as possible for as long as possible. And I think that bringing those decks that are degenerate and create really negative play patterns and negative play experiences, so much so that they're banned long term, creates a really poor experience for newer players or players who don't have the money to buy the best deck or just want to play their favorite deck. What you're doing is, more importantly, destroying the experience at your locals, which is driving away new players, which are the most important players in the room. Sorry, competitive players, you're not the most important people at locals. The new players are.
You're coming back.
Those are the ones that you're coming back no matter what. You're a competitive player. You're coming every week. You're coming to grind. You just want to play games and get better and win everything. Congratulations, you won an armory. Get your cold foil promo that you probably got 3 of. You spike. Congratulations. Right. Like, get over yourself. Most importantly, it creates a really bad experience for new players, and as a result, you're going to make how are you going to play locally if you kill your local scene because some guy who bought a starter deck grabbed a bunch of white border bolt cards that people have been tossing to the side and built a CC deck. He doesn't even have a sideboard yet, and you just maul him with Starvo or maul him with Stubbies. It's like, get over yourself. Stop. Fair. Like, I don't understand to me, the primary issue is that you're not gaining anything from it. What are you gaining from playing it at locals? Unless, and this will be my one caveat, is if next weekend there's a pro quest and you're running this deck, you're at an event that is predominantly good players.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of locals are segmented off if they have a lot of local, right? We have a lot of armories, so we kind of know which ones are the ones you go to prepare for big events and which ones you go to maybe to play for more fun or because you like the store that it's played at. If you're preparing for a pro quest on Saturday, I'm not going to fault you for going to a Thursday or Friday night event and playing it to get some reps. Yep. However, in the case of something like Stubbies, 99% of the people were not playing for anything. There was no big event that they were going to. So what are you doing going to your local and mauling people with Stubbies Fi when you have nothing to play for and nothing to practice for?
I would like to interject.
Sure.
I like the idea of this being a productive conversation. I want to focus around how we can use this conversation to affect positive change. 2 things. Us telling you, the amalgamous, you who's doing this out there, rabble, don't do that. That person's not listening to us. They're not sitting there thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Dice Commandos really crushed it this week. No, they don't give a shit. They're gonna be that type of person. They are that type of person. 2, if one person playing Stubby's Fi scares a new player away from ever coming back out and playing again, then shame on that local community, because one person should not have that much power in that community. If he is the alpha in that community and he is beating the shit out of new players, then that local community doesn't deserve to grow. If that person comes in and playing against Stubby's Fi is the sole memory he has from that interaction, coming in for the first time, learning to play the game, being talking to the players around him, if that none of that matters, get fucking better at doing that, local community. Don't sit there. Like, I think that it's a huge
Boy, do I have a good rebuttal for you.
I think that it is a huge cop out on the local community to say, oh, Starvo, Starvo is a bad example because that was pretty intensive
and long term.
Yeah. Fi Stubbies is different to me, because if your local community can't handle taking a new player under your wing while having every community has 1 or 2 of those players. Those players just exist, and they're not listening to us. Sorry. So let's be productive. Get your community's ass lit a fire under, so that they don't let those new players get scared away.
Yeah, because every community is like Minnesota, where you have plenty of personalities and champions for the game. I'll take a personal experience of mine. Universus. Went to play with a couple people. Took my son with. It was the most negative play experience I've ever had with somebody, because that person, who now is in the Fab community, and I've seen him at a couple RTNs, and he gets smoked, which makes me happy that he loses all the time, smoked my, at the time, 14-year-old son, and told me he loves to smash new players and destroy them. And my response wasn't tuck my tail and run. My response is, that's a horseshit attitude to have. You're never going to get a community growth. That is why this community is tiny. So me, the new player, I just did exactly what you said, shame on. And I left, and I never played in that game for Universus.
No,
and
listen
never
to my
played
situation. Okay, my situation
You're
is that
saying,
if that happened...
You do a great job, community. Not every community has that. Is what we're saying. Not every community has champions like the Twin Cities. We are very fortunate in what we have for card games. We have winter where it's horseshit out for so many months of the year, and people want to play games because we can't go outside without getting frostbite. So
I do have a response.
Do not have that. So you're being that person you're saying isn't. You're being that person right now by saying, you book up, community, you do a great job. Not everybody has that option. It's a better option.
I don't know that that's necessarily what I took from what he was saying, but I have kind of a mid rebuttal, right?
Jason focuses in, but go ahead.
Well, what I took from what Dane was saying was that hopefully the new player shows up. What they walked away with was, man, all these guys gave me all their commons and stuff from their packs, and I walked away with a whole bunch of chaff and like that type of. And he's right. I mean, that's what they should remember, not because if they're relatively new, they're not necessarily going to even really know that they got their face pounded in, right? Because they probably lost most of their games, right? The other side of it, though, I think to Jason's point a little bit, Dane, is I think you're right from the short term. But in the long term, those other 3-5 players who lost to Stubby's Fi that night are like, well, why the hell did I not bring Stubby's Fi? Because I lost. So it's almost like a toxic effect upon the community.
Right. And that leans into why I think, like, if you are that type of player, just let legality be your border. If it's legal, you should play it, and you shouldn't feel guilty for not, because that creates its own toxicity.
But what about the other three? I mean, because the main thing...
That's what I'm talking about. Those 3 players should not have gone into that feeling like they couldn't play Stubbies if they wanted to. If they look back and they have buyer's remorse because they opted not to, then that's on them. But if they felt guilted into not... But I do want to respond to Jason before we move on from that, because in your situation, I wasn't proposing that you buck up. I was proposing in this metaphor that we're using now with you and your son, that if you had been sitting at a table of even just 4 guys and Mason had a bad experience and those 4 guys had already started to take you under their wing and been like, hey, this dude's kind of a dick. He always runs a broken decks. Like, don't fucking worry about him. he's good. Like he's good to test into and stuff. Like you had that like that it like if you walked away knowing that he's just that guy. But the issue is going back to what I was saying earlier is that guy was the alpha. Don't let that guy be the alpha. Don't let that guy be the trendsetter in your local community. And that doesn't matter how big you are.
Control of that. You don't have control of that.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do.
No. Hold on. I would like to step in here and say very simply, I think this is where we can sometimes spiral. At least the three of us. I won't make Andrew be a part of this. We all come from different backgrounds. We didn't grow up playing card games at card shops as our only thing. We were all athletes. We all played. We have a different perspective on that attitude, right? We always talk about like the alpha nerd. If you go to certain communities, there's the alpha nerd. But that guy a lot of times in those communities would immediately get like pushed aside by somebody who's a bigger, stronger personality who didn't grow up in a community where they were picked on their entire life. And I think to Jason's point, I would say that if you go to certain communities, they don't have that option. They don't have personalities who override the one guy who's just a huge dick. Like they just don't have those personality types because, again, to Jason's point, when we go play, we went last night. Jason and I did. We went last night and played in a skirmish on a Wednesday night, and there were 22 people. Okay, and there were two other events that were firing in the cities that also fired in different areas of the city. So there were probably 40 players playing on a random Wednesday night. So we have the size to offset one harsh personality. So we sometimes we're the big fish in the little pond attitude. And the problem is if you take a community that's 6-7 guys and that's all they have one shop that hosts it, they go once a week and they play, and there's one guy with a big abrasive personality and everybody else is nice, but that one guy is that abrasive guy that every community has. You need all 6 of those other personalities to really offset that guy. And even then sometimes, like, let's be honest, I have to think about it like from my perspective. If I go on a Tuesday night to play a new game with new people and there are 6 people and I know those are the 6 people I interact with, there's one guy who is just as abrasive as all hell, and there are 5 guys who are great. I have to ask myself, I'm committing one night a week where I don't spend time with my family to go do something. Do I like this game enough on the first time I've ever been to commit to this, or are the other 2 card games that I randomly bought starters for worth trying out? And those people will window shop. They'll show up on a week.
For sure.
They'll get their shit pushed in. They'll leave. They'll go try something else. And if another community does it better, you lose them. And that's where my argument comes in, which is like, I get legality. I get it. I understand that. But also, how big of a personality and a spike do you have to be to think to yourself, the packs and the cold foil weapon are more important than anything else?
Got it. I want to bring it back to my original point of being productive. What are we hoping to accomplish with this conversation? What's like our goal? Let's establish that as the 4 of us. What are we trying to accomplish with this?
Well,
are we trying to?
My primary question is, based on your guys' background. I mean, that's why I've asked you guys here. Is I obviously have my opinion, but you guys have other opinions and other backgrounds, right? At where is that break point, right? I mean, I think we would all agree that taking Starvo to nationals or taking Starvo to the first Pro Tour was perfectly acceptable, right? I mean, zero question.
Do that.
Right?
Yes, but I think...
But we've already established here that, taking Starvo to your armories and stuff, even back in the day when he was technically legal, was also frowned upon. So legality out the window even for that, right? When is it acceptable to play the crush deck? When is it not? Maybe that's better than the... I mean, I thought Stubbies was kind of a good one because it was a 3-day window,
which is a good example,
right?
But,
that's why I thought Stubbies was a good example. But let's to that point. Where's the break point?
I like sticking on Stubbies, and I would argue that where is the break point isn't like a goal. Like that's not an objective for this episode. Like coming to that conclusion where the break point is. I think the objective is how to prevent the negativity that this is causing in communities. I would argue that us attempting to shame people out of being that guy will have minimal to no effect on people being or not being that guy.
I actually disagree with that.
You think that there's people watching that? You're the guy who puts up the billboards. You're the guy that puts up the "Don't beat your wife" billboards because that stops guys from beating their wives.
No, That's like saying don't do Me Too or any of those, or fight cancer, any of that.
Yeah.
All that stuff has a reason to put it into a light. All that stuff is to put it in front of you to give a perspective. It's like going to Target and locking your car doors. Why do you lock them? There's the chance of somebody stealing something are bad, but if you leave your windows open and unlocked, there's going to be an opportunist that's going to go and just steal it that normally wouldn't steal it. You're going to have people that listen to this that would be like, you know what? I never thought of that. It's going to be banned in 3 days. I really don't gain anything off of it. I'm having a negative effect in the community. I don't need to play that. Yeah, there's going to be people that are going to completely disagree, but saying you're not going to change minds of anybody, then why do we do anything in life?
That's literally, no. I wanted to establish what the goal was, because I don't think our goal should be to change those people's minds. Because I think if you're reasonable enough,
why wouldn't
to
you
hear? Listen, if you're reasonable enough to hear us having this conversation and being like, oh yeah, maybe I won't bring stubbies because it's not that important. I think if you're that person and you think like that, then you're probably not going to be a truly negative play experience in the first place. If you're sitting across, even with a guy playing
podcasts, we're all about saying things about LSS that they probably don't listen to us. So why were we even saying it? They weren't listening to us. What was the
trying
point?
To get followers, and like we wanted to like raise hackles. Like that's, I don't know. But I'm trying to
have these conversations because you do change people's opinion on it by saying, "Hey, these are 4 people that are champions for their community." Right? We can all agree on that. We love.
I want to
push, but if we've changed people in our local community and don't bring stuff as much because of hassling and heckling and doing this, so it does work. Even on the strongest minds, it does work.
I would argue that that's because we're in person with them and they would think differently.
You said it doesn't matter. And those were strong minds that have changed.
I defer. I do. I will say, Jason, you're right. I do think that this will
affect
I'm just saying, what
it's okay to have it's okay to have this conversation with the perspective that we will change people's opinions. And if it's 25% of the people suddenly say, I'm not going to do that, that's a great number.
Well, on the flip side,
that's fair.
We may be encouraging others to step up and,
that is what I was going to propose. Yes, that was when I was talking about having an objective for this conversation. I think the objective should be to be a call to action for local communities.
Yeah.
That even if you are not the personality type to push out this toxic alpha, you can at least be a community member that takes the new player under your wing and explains, this guy's just kind of a dick. I think that grab, even if there's 4 people and you're nervous, do that if you want your community to grow. Grab your short and curlies, talk to the new guy, explain the alpha guy's an ass, sorry about that. We play on our own when it's not the local, whatever. Build that way.
Well, but to Jason's point, though, about you guys have successfully changed people. I mean, I imagine that's a very low success rate, especially in our industry, because everybody's right all the time in gaming.
Yeah.
Right. That said, maybe that's the more, because, I mean, I know that if I was going to a shop, it doesn't matter if 4 guys pulled me aside and said, hey, Jason's a jerk. Like, I probably still don't want to deal with Jason or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still not going to come regardless of how nice everybody is. So I think perhaps the better angle is to encourage, like you said, Dane, maybe you, actually, I think it was you, Blake, talking about the alphas, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the alphas are the tournament organizer or the person running the event, and a lot of time they're hamstrung. They can't say something. Like, I can't take somebody, when I say out into the parking lot, I don't mean in aggression, folks. I mean outside, right? We did that in Destiny. We did that in Destiny, and everybody thought that I was beating kids up in the parking lot. So thank you, internet. That's not what we're talking about here, right? So take the guy outside and say, hey, look, this is the impact of this. Right, but the TO can't always do that. The store owner can't always do that. So we need community members to be the person to have that conversation.
Right.
That's my take.
Yeah, that's my call to action. That's what I think the objective of this should be, to empower community. And I think that just blanketly saying that this external toxic experience is ruining my community, there is ownership there to be taken on. You can,
Yeah.
if you are just letting that ruin your community because there is the guy who's going to run stubbies. I'm sorry. It's probably just the case. If you're letting that you're standing idly by and watching that scare away new players week after week, I don't know what to tell you, because you got to at some point make your best efforts to take them under your wing and not sit behind the wall of, well, it's just toxic. I wish someone would fix this. Like, sorry.
So I would say that the answer to Andrew's question, going away from like the what's the goal, what's the whatever, Andrew's question, right, is when is it okay, when is it not okay? I think Andrew said it actually at the beginning when he was explaining their experience, which was someone saying, hey man, like, or thinking, read the room. And I would argue that
that's good.
instead of sitting here and going, shame on you for playing Starvo, shame on you for playing Stubbies, because to Dane's point, that will probably not change most people. And if anything, those people are just going to get more staunch in their defense of their actions and their attitudes, where they're going to go
For
even
sure.
more so deeper into, oh, well, it's competitive game. Get competitive. Ugh. Like, congratulations. We know. We get it. You're a tough guy. You're so good at things. Like, congratulations on being good at a children's card game at a local card game store and winning $10 worth of prizing. You're amazing. We're proud of you. I hope you know
he has validation in his life.
I hope
now.
you know that
Or
your parents are
cheese
more
can
proud
be
of you now.
toxic outfits too.
That donut you eat next, no calories in it. Go for it, bro.
No calories. You man, you deserve this. You deserve everything. I think more importantly, it is a case of read the room or just read the tournament. Look around and just think to yourself, because there are times where I think a good player or a well thought of player might reconsider some of their decisions, maybe even reconsider the deck that they're running, just because you look at the room and you go, man, there are a lot of new players here. Is tonight really the night to run Starvo?
Okay.
Why not just look at the event? Why not just address it from an event to an event standpoint? Again, we have stores locally that 100%, I will never feel pity for taking the tier 0 best deck, top of the format, and I will 100% try to win every dollar of prizing I can. But there are other stores that I 100% should feel shameful for showing up to and bullying new players, because I'm not going to lie, I should be able to bring a tier 2.5 deck and win at some tournaments, because half of the players they don't even know all the rules yet. You don't have to have a top tier deck to beat players who don't even understand. Like, if the first round or the first 2 rounds, if you go against somebody who's 1-0 and they go, I'm going to pitch 6 resources and then I'm going to, let me think about this. Like, okay, man, you definitely don't have to pitch 6 resources and then consider your card. That would be my argument.
I owe a minor apology. I'm realizing now that I did take for granted that I was making the assumption, or coming up with my thoughts with the assumption, that people were reading the room and choosing to opt out of what is quote unquote acceptable.
Which I think is a fair assumption in probably 95%. I think it's a fair assumption. But
if you're not aware of this, I would say, for your sake, if you've never put any thought into this, then local non-competitive tournaments, then yes, let's. You guys all stated that. Don't bring the band broken shit.
Yeah. So,
but I was operating under the assumption that that was established, and now we're talking about the people that are doing it anyways.
But there's always going to be people, especially in gaming, right, where they just don't.
Right.
They just don't get it. So
and those people that have that knowledge of what's acceptable and not, and are opting out of doing what's acceptable, they're not being deterred by our conversation.
That is, I think that's a fair statement.
That was the point I was making, is that those people are not at this point being talked into not bringing that deck.
All right, so, Jason, you get your rebuttal, and then I'm going to move us on to kind of the next 1.5.
One nice thing I like right now is in the current meta that we have, it was always my biggest complaint was I go to an armory and everybody run the same decks every week. And if you can only afford that one deck, this common is not for you. Okay. If you afford to run one deck, run that deck every time you come. That's awesome. Just keep playing. But when you have the ability to buy multiple decks and run the same deck over and over, it became very stale. I'd stop wanting to go because I know everybody's playing what deck they're going to be playing and how they're going to be playing. Where I would go there, I'd open up my binder, I'd roll a 6-sided dice, whatever it landed on, that's a deck I'm going to play tonight. And if I played it last week, I'm going to change and go to a different deck because it's a fun game and you want to have fun. So that's why when something's banned, it's banned because it leaves a negative play experience. Okay, that's the main reason that stuff gets banned generally. Negative play experience, overpowered deck. So at armories, at that type of level, local, I think you just don't play banned cards because you should be going there to have fun and enjoying life a little bit and not just strictly. And I'm a very competitive person. I hate losing at anything. But when it comes to Fab, I can go lose because I play Cheyenne at a RTN and don't care. And that's what I'm going to play. And I enjoyed every second of it, even when I lose because my deck's not as broken as everybody's. And sometimes it becomes broken because I play a great hero. So I think moral of the story, just have fun when you go to. If something's banned, it's banned for a reason because it's broken. It's a negative play experience. Have fun at your local armories. If it's a high level event, you've been practicing it for a month. You run it, and you destroy people because you're going to win a high level event and get your PTI. That's how I feel.
I think Jason's out here changing hearts and minds as we speak.
Yeah, people either love me or hate me more now. It's right on par.
Big heart. All right.
I like to imagine the person out there that's like, God, you know what? Jason's right. I'm not going to run Stubby's Fi.
Well,
Jason's
that's actually
right.
where I wanted to steer us, right? Is let's convince...
Andrew's going to take him in the parking lot anyway, so...
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we just got shut down yet again. All right. So let's actually convince that person why it's to their personal advantage to not run Stubbies, right? The reason I believe that majority of people, when a card is banned, move on is because they want to start learning what it's going to be, right? We know Stubbies is dead on Monday. This week, I'm going to go run this new version of Fi and see how it works or whatever, right? That's why I personally believe the majority of people don't do that at locals and stuff like that, right? So
Agreed.
I'll throw that out to you guys, right? Is that enough? Is that the right argument with which to convince these people? Or again, is it just about getting that cold foil, hitting it, walking away?
I think it really comes down to how much faith you have in your viewers. Do you think that we need to explain to your viewers, Andrew, the people that follow you and watch your videos, do we need to explain to them why they shouldn't be doing that? I think you've got a really solid follower base. I think that the people listening to this video right now at this point in the video, I think they're like, we get it.
You're not wrong. The people who disagreed with Jason hit the thumbs down button 35 seconds in, and here we are.
They heard me.
You're not wrong.
Beginning.
You're not wrong.
They heard me. They heard me at the beginning, and they're like, maybe this is for me. Yeah, this guy sounds like he's on my side. No,
nobody ever said that.
Yeah. All right, you're not wrong. All right, so now let's take the final parting shot here. Let's get Jason all sorts of spun up before we do our cast. By the way, we forgot to mention that. This is a crossover cast. These guys are shooting early with me, and then I'm going to be on theirs later. Their episode, because they do a better job with editing and stuff, they will likely still go up in the morning, I assume. Is that correct? Yeah. And by the morning, we mean Friday morning. By the time you're watching this, like 2 days ago, because that's how time works. Anyway, so I had a good experience this week, Jason, and I wanted to tell you about it because I know that you're a huge fan of the yellow shirts, right? And by what with that we mean is the judges out there, right? And to be clear, none of us have a problem with judges as people. We have a problem with power tripping judges. That's what I am referring to in this case, right? So I put up a cast days ago of whenever this goes up, right? About how I think that the skirmish, because I learned this week that TOs and people serving the role as judge, right? I say that in a specific way, and quote unquote event staff are not allowed to play in skirmish events, despite skirmishes being a casual level tier 1 event, which is fine. I get it's the rules. I get it. So I put out the video saying I think that there should be a judge prize, right, for the person who is being a judge. And I got several responses on the Facebooks saying skirmishes don't have judges. And that was coming from judges, right? And so what they meant by that, what I was able to determine what they meant by that was No one who is super special like me, aka a yellow shirt, is required to be at your event. However, the definition of judge on Fab TCG's tournament policy is the person in charge of making hard decisions. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it is, right? So if I'm TOing and I have to make a judge call, I am fulfilling the role of judge. And there were at least 3 people. I'd happily throw up their names because one of them, by the way, said I had a post way back in the day saying Sarbo's not OP, changed my mind. So there you go. But anyway, one of these person. Special people, right, is just like, well, skirmishes don't require judges. So, are you a judge? That's the question for the room. Are you a judge if you are only a yellow shirt?
I read those comments, and I could feel in your responses the frustration spewing out of your comments, trying to be. So basically, Andrew was like, "Are you an effing idiot? Are you not listening to the words I'm saying right now?" But couldn't write that. And it was not getting through their thick skulls because probably, Andrew, they were wearing their yellow shirts. They're like, I better get my yellow shirt on to respond to this question right now. I'm going to yellow it up and start typing away at the keyboard. Your response was pretty easy. It's just saying, hey, who's ever helping with a judge call? They might not even be a level 1 judge. They could be Joe Blow, who the community goes to ask questions without their judge license, we'll call it, or they haven't earned a yellow shirt. And if you've earned a yellow shirt, burn that shit as soon as they ship it to you because it does something to you as soon as you receive it. So I 100% understand your question. You're saying, hey, thank you for helping. Thank you. We appreciate you helping our skirmish succeed by answering a fellow player's question when it's called upon. Here's a trinket. A $13 cold foil Azalea. That's what you get. We appreciate it. And the fact that people didn't understand that was beyond ridiculous because I didn't even watch your video when I read that, and I understood what you were saying just by your comments. It was pretty simple. But once again, they had their yellow shirts on and just they put them on, and that ink and the fabric, it just gets to the flesh and it does something to them.
Well, so talk me down on this one, right? I mean, the premise was, hey, throw in an extra top 8 prize to reward a community member who's volunteering. That was the premise of the video, right?
Simple.
I actually deleted, I got so frustrated last night at about 2 a.m. that I actually deleted the post on the main Facebook page, right? Because it wasn't worth dealing with these jackasses. And I want to be very clear. I know a lot of judges personally. They're good people. I'm not slamming judges. I'm slamming judges who think that they're better than other people because they have a yellow shirt on. That is what I'm slamming right here, right?
100%.
I do, and open it up to you guys. It costs these people nothing for LSS. It costs LSS virtually nothing. It costs these people nothing, takes nothing away from them to throw a 9th top 8 prize in there to give to an outstanding community member who's helping. Mm-hmm. What's the problem? Why so virulently push back on that idea? What is the idea? Like, are we taking something away from those judges? I'm done. I don't understand. I'm very frustrated. Explain it to me.
I think so, Andrew. I think that this can be chalked up to this is a person who hadn't hit their weekly I'm important quota, and they needed to let people know that they were a special thing. With that knowledge, that engagement is no longer worth your time. They were just hitting their quota. They need to feel special. Have a nice week. God bless everyone in your life and the shit they have to go through, most likely. Like, just let them drift away slowly. You know, it's not worth your frustration. And also get off Facebook.
I mean, that's fair advice. Yeah. I only post videos there every now and then when I think it's one that I'd actually like for LSS to see. That's kind of the philosophy there. Yeah. I wanted LSS to see that one, and then the judges came to LSS's defense, right? So
yeah, I honestly didn't understand it.
I'm actually a judge. So if you want to send me your videos, I'll make sure LSS gets them.
I mean, I'm a level 1 judge, right? So I don't really know at what tier you have to be a special judge, a more special judge. But anyway, Blake, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I would say that the group of people who feel that way definitely exist in the same realm of elitism as the people who advertise their skill set via XP. That would be my understanding, is that the people who go, I am a higher level judge and I therefore should be looked at and praised as somebody who knows the rules in a way that you common and mere mortals do not understand. I would like you to bow in my presence, and I would like other people not to ever be considered judges, because they are not. They are simply tournament overseers. I don't want them to be called a judge. It is important to me that my title as judge is holy and it's there's a special place for me in flesh and blood because I have earned the title of judge, and therefore I should be praised for it. In the same way that somebody goes, I have 2,000 XP lifetime, and therefore you should listen to my opinion on the meta because I'm a great player. What's your elo? Don't worry about my elo. I've never actually played at a high level event, but I have play tested 300 hours of Oldhim, and therefore I know the deck inside and out. Bro.
Any similarities found in this podcast between what Blake describes and real life people are purely coincidental.
And with that, I do want to thank you guys for coming. I want to remind everybody that we are sponsored here by the good people over at FabDB. You guys know them. You guys love them. The best source on the interwebs for basically everything Fab collection management, making those deck lists. I'm there all the time. When you're over there, consider upgrading your account to unlock all sorts of additional features like card backs, testing, which is pretty hot, and all sorts of stuff. So thank you to our friends over at FabDB for sponsoring us. And to the Outcast Haven, guys, it's been great to actually chat with you guys as a group once again. Your guys' energy is never low. So for those who somehow don't know you, which I think is like 0% of my viewer base, but you know, people come across things. Why don't you tell people what you guys do, where to find you, and all that good stuff?
Dane, that's your job.
Line. This is my role. Yeah, line. No, you can find us on YouTube, Outcasts Haven, no apostrophe in that S. And we basically are just a group of 3 guys who like to talk a lot of shit about stuff. We discuss meta, what we're playing, what we think is happening in the community, what's important to us, and make sure that we relay our opinions on that, because we all know that our opinions are highly, highly cherished by everyone that listens. So thank you for those that already watch us. And if you don't, check us out, see if we're your style. We can be, at the very least, I hope it's entertaining, even if you're not walking away with like aha moments. But hope that you have a good time.
It is certainly entertaining. And I do want to say, I really liked your guys, the one you guys did live, because you had the control or the recording snafu. Actually, I thought that was a pretty good one. But maybe that's because Jason left halfway through. I don't know. But
that's part of the reason. Part of the reason is I left. Part of the reason is it's just a lot of fun to do live.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun to do live.
Yeah. People were a lot more forgiving, too, on live, generally. But we'll see. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap this up and move over to their cast. Please make sure you'll check that out. They usually go up Friday mornings on the YouTubes, and you can find them basically whenever on your downloads. But check them out Friday mornings. We're going to go over there and hit this. Thank you guys again. And say it with me, folks. 3, 2, 1. Go Commando.
Go Commando.
Go Commando.
Got through it without screwing up. High five.
Nice. You nailed that. That was awesome.
That was
Do
impressive.
you do other people's intros for them? And you do our intro?
This is Andrew doing Outcast Haven for Jason. God damn it, motherfucking!
That's good. I mean, honestly.